All right, fired up footballers. James with Juan Pimiento over here. What's going on, Juan?
James, just hanging out here with you on a Wednesday night. What else? What else is there to do? Definitely after a fire game, especially this fire game.
On a warm night in Chicago, not much else better to do. Maybe a baseball game, but
You know, or just trying to stay cool because it's a struggle.
yeah,
It is
get
out of here for sure.
get out to Buckingham Fountain or to the lake, one of the two.
Oh man, yes, for sure.
So
But yeah,
what?
man, thanks for having me on.
Thanks for
Definitely.
coming on, man. Thanks for coming on last minute. Hello, shout out to the chat. Shout out to everybody. What's going on? Smash that like button for Juan coming on here. Subscribe to Spitting Fire YT. Check out Juan on Twitter. We'll have his details in the description. Let's just dig. We're also available on iTunes and Stitcher. Spitting Fire YT. Get all that stuff out of the way. Smash that like button, boys and girls. Let's go. Fired up footballers. Juan here. Let's talk. Let's dig right into the fire in Columbus. What the heck was that? I feel like fire just got robbed.
I mean, I don't know because and we were kind of talking off the air a little bit before the show that like I'm still kind of at a loss with this team, and this game was just weird like at all fronts. Of course, after the round table, having a game is always like we are trying to focus on what's going on the field. But I mean, yeah, there was that. For one, there was that play with Frankowski at the end. Yeah, which I don't know. I feel like at least they could have checked it out, you know, just for VAR. But again, it feels like another continuation of the same thing that's been happening lately. Like especially since the break, it's just been the hamster wheel for this team. And at this point, it's just amazing to see how the different ways that the Fire find ways to lose points, especially at home.
There's like gunk inside of the wheel, and they need to
Mm-hmm.
WD-40 that crap, and they keep trying, and they think maybe we'll get into that later, but they have people trying to put some WD-40 into it, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just not working to make that wheel spin.
Yeah, exactly. So, and at this point, it's like, what do you even say about this team? It's amazing. Uh, the players, they look like they're trying, but it just looks like just
Don't they?
so
They do look like they're trying.
they do, but it's just it looks like they're trying like aimlessly, and hence the hamster wheel. It's just they're spinning in the same place, but really going nowhere.
But then
Uh,
we see those moments sometimes, like the first 30 minutes, maybe the first 20, 30 minutes of the fire of this game,
mhm.
where like they looked like they could destroy Columbus, didn't. But I mean, they're picking them apart, and they just didn't finish the job. Let them sneak in there at the end. Didn't get that call, as you said, and I'm surprised that they couldn't check the VAR because that play for the penalty call should have came right before the game tying goal, right?
Yeah,
And I'm surprised they couldn't go to VAR and be like, "Oh wait, actually no goal. We got to go to a penalty here." And
yeah,
but
which would have been just a scene. Like it would have been like so MLS. That would have been awesome to watch. But yeah, no, and again, it just feels like it's the same thing. It's like you said, like this team. I mean, we saw it against Atlanta. Like they're capable of so much, but it just seems like they keep tripping over the same rock. That last goal specifically, another goal that they give up inside their own box, and just in the most uh, unexplainable ways how the attackers found their way in. But it happens over and over and over again, and you're just at a point where you just ask, what's there to do? What is possibly there to do?
if the question starts going, what is really not working here? Where is the failure starting on the field? Where is the failure starting before the field? We got to start identifying these areas. Of course, I think there's a failure in roster creation. Like what they want in this roster, they don't have fullbacks. They're
Yeah.
missing key pieces, and they walked into the season like and are trying to acquire more of the same pieces. I think they try to go after this Luis winger, this winger that eventually went to Porto or something like that. Guillermo just tweeted out.
Yeah, Luis Diaz, my
Yes,
my homeboy,
another
my compatriot. Yep.
a compatriot,
Oh hell
Colombia.
yeah, Colombia for sure.
Yeah, that's nice. So yeah, and I saw that they Nelson was bragging about undervaluing him at 5 million. He gets sold over to Europe for 10.
Which is not the first time. I mean, I just when I heard it, I'm like, man, it feels like Quintero all over again.
Mhm.
If you remember that whole saga, was like kind of the same. I wouldn't be surprised if it happened again, because I remember with Quintero, the talk, which I found out from a source, that basically the Fire got played, which
Yeah.
of course it always happens.
It
This
looked
happens with
like
the
that from
Fire.
the outside. I'm just like,
Yeah.
I have no inside sources. I'm just looking
Mhm.
at the tea leaves, and how can I discern this and that they can't? It's a little weird.
Yeah, exactly. And when I found out, I was like, man, that's crazy. And Porto was involved in that as well. And just seeing it with Diaz now, like, if
Mm.
that's the case, it's just, again, amazing to see. And that would have been another great signing. Um, but
But
again,
another winger.
but another, yeah, exactly, another winger when you have so many. And
Kaitan, Frankowski,
yeah,
Herbert,
Moreno, Martinez,
Martinez.
yeah, and even Campos you can throw in, I guess.
Oh, sure, for sure.
But like we mentioned before, that's another aspect of it is, again, the glaring need is there at fullback, like you said, James, and still we haven't seen anything about it besides just patchwork within the roster with Branico and with Kapelhoff at the time, and Raheem Edwards at the time.
Who was it? Get
And
this, an MLS Cup winning left back, outside wing left back. Raheem
yeah,
Edwards.
something like
But
that. Yeah.
oh, something like that. But really, we haven't really seen too much of that. We did see him excel more in the winger, like coming forward role. That's the other thing. It's like, what do they want to play? What with this hodgepodge of talent? Because it seems like they're taking talent and not really worrying about team need.
Mm-hmm.
And that's leading into Paunovic's problem, where he's got to shoehorn these players now. Now I've got Dax McCarty, Brant Bronico, a whole slew of other central mid, including now the departed Mo Adams. And what do I do here? At this logjam at CDM that this guy's created for me? And I have no center backs. Okay, so I will move Basti to center back, who, by the way, I will say this. I don't think Basti's a top 5 or top 10 MLS center back. I mean, he fills the position adequately, semi-adequately defensively. Offensively, he's a stud. He's one of the best he's the best offensive center back.
Oh, yeah,
Defensively,
for sure.
though, he's not in the top 10 or maybe in the top 15. And that those 2 goals, maybe at least one of them could be kind of that second goal, especially.
Yeah.
That was his mark.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, the ball just went right over his head on that jump, which is amazing. Also, think about that he's been the Fire's best center back, and that's a scary thought if you think about it. With a guy like Kapelhoff, which it looked like he was on his way out.
He was struggling
this
this season.
Yeah, exactly, and for all the hullabaloo that was the Fire re-signing him. Over the winter with Calvo coming in, which I think has been, he'd been a revelation at first, but it's just been kind of like, sucked into this whole spiral that has been the Fire, especially on defense. Marcelo has been, he started well, and then same thing. He's just been on a malaise ever since, and he was kind of held as that center back that the Fire didn't have last season, which they never did, by the way. With Kapelhoff, so and that's when he went back to Schweinsteiger, just like he did last year, basically out of an emergency case. And
it's his blanket.
Yeah, exactly. And he's been the glue. But I think at that point again, you just have to, that's when he goes to the front office and he goes to Pano, because unfortunately for Pano, I feel like again what he's been trying to do, and he, whatever. Style, or that's one thing. I don't really believe in like identity. I don't think it's that big of an issue. I think whatever wins is the style that counts. But
yes,
I think he wants to defend with the ball, and he wants to defend high up the pitch. But it doesn't work when you're in turn. We see this team tracking back and trying to park the bus at times, like we kind of saw today. Switch to 5 in the back, and it just seems again like there's so many variables in this team, and there's no consistency, especially on the backside. In execution as well, 101, this team, at times has been brilliant, but that's been very few times. But with teams that go and attack them face to face, they go to punch their face, they get beat easily. And as I mentioned before, in the box specifically, this team is really, really bad as far as trying to cover in their own box. Any player that can make a diagonal up the middle of the defense usually finds a way. And going back to the fullbacks as well, this is something I don't understand that is still happening in the year 2019 of our Lord at this point of the season, is why are the fullbacks defending so deep? If you look, James, especially the second goal, look where Corrales is defending.
Mhm.
Corrales is inching back.
Subbed on, by the way, too.
Yeah, and it's not just Corrales, by the way. It's
The
and
whole
anyone who's played in those positions has been notorious for that. And instead of trying to get the ball from the defender and take a stab, they always track back and get pinned in their own box until they basically just allow the player in the box and they get killed. It happened in Montreal with that game-winning goal. It happened in LAFC despite the draw all countless of times. I mean, it's still happening, and I think again that comes down to the way that these players are being coached and the way they're being instructed to defend, and it's still happening. So that one I have to pin it on Pano, and I'm not. I'll say this up front, because I know there's been, of course, a lot of clamoring for Pano and also getting fired. In my position, I'm not one to call for people to get fired.
No, you don't want to fire a guy. He's a nice guy. You don't want to see a guy lose his job. Sorry.
No, and I was just gonna say, and like what you said before, like and I wouldn't want people calling for my job. No. That's for sure. But there is definitely responsibility from both, and at this point, it's more and more on Pano because I believe, and we all know, this roster is number one, leaps and bounds better than last year, because last year was a disaster.
What about 2017? And this is almost earning as much points as the 2017 team, which had Michael Harrington and guys like that, and Lucho Salagnac, guys who were great quality people, but as far as soccer talented, not truly MLS caliber at those points in time. Anyway,
definitely no. There was no Nico Gaitan, that's for sure.
No Nico Gaitan, no Frankowski, that type of talent even.
Exactly, no Katai. So
no Katai.
Yeah, and again, last year, I gave Pano the benefit of the doubt because he had to make something out of almost nothing. This year, there's no excuse.
Going off that, his offensive tactics, at least this season, have taken a step forward in a way. It's really just the defensive tactics that have just they're non-existent, and they're suffering, like you're saying, every game. We're just seeing mental breakdowns, whether it's one particular player, whether it's one particular side, whether it's the entire back line. It's just like one weird error, like that just throws off the game. And also his, so he's offensive tactics going forward, defensive tactics stagnated, or if not regressing. And then this really weird obstinance with sticking with Kronholm in net. I don't understand why Usted has not gotten a shot out. I just don't know what's going on there, and I have some other notes to dig into too with you.
Yeah, for sure. That's one that I didn't understand it when it first happened, and I remember that was like my final piece for 90 minutes was about that exactly. Was kind of a piece.
You spoke with him, right?
Yeah, I spoke with Dave Austin. I spoke with Richard Sanchez too. Kronholm wasn't available at the time because I don't know if he's still now, but he's not comfortable giving interviews. So you hadn't heard from Kronholm besides the one piece from the club itself on their website. That's why. But in any regard, so I did that story, and we're talking ahead of the Atlanta game, the first Atlanta game in Atlanta, ahead of the Gold Cup break, which was more than a month ago. And I remember talking to Osted, and that was coming off as well, the decision of that Pano made, and him announcing it publicly after the game, which I don't remember exactly the game it was. It was at home before Atlanta, and then we find out that Osted didn't know about it when Pano said it publicly. So Osted hadn't been informed by Pano at the time.
It was right after San Jose, 4-1 loss. That loss, and then going to Chicago, NYCFC. I think is that where Kronholm took over at the very next game after that 4-1 loss. So San Jose. San Jose's doing great, by the way.
Oh, of course. I mean, Almeida, oh my God. I would tip my hat, but
sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. No, you're right. But so basically, that's where that story came from. And I talked to Osted, and he said basically, like I didn't know about this. I was kind of caught off guard, and Now I'm going to fight for a spot, and here we are now more than a month later, and he's completely been ostracized
from the match day 18, no less.
Yeah, it's crazy. And again, at the time I wrote, they have Nelson and Pano had their reasons, of course. The Cronholm's ability with his feet at the time, whatever. And I said, are the Fire creating a problem that they don't have, or are they upgrading in a position that they already have pretty secured? Mm-hmm. It's turning out to be the former. It's turning out to be more of an issue than anything. And that's not to say Cronholm is in a complete disaster, but he hasn't been exactly reliable since he's come in.
If we're honest about it, though, it kind of is a disaster compared to what it was, because Usted was solid, and now it just doesn't seem so solid. It seems like you took a piece of paper that was there, maybe had 3 holes in it, and it could get put into a binder. You're like, let's add 5 more holes to that randomly.
Yeah, exactly.
By putting Cronholm in. And
exactly.
So that's just more places for stuff to sift through. Great.
Yeah, and again, it exacerbates what's going on now as well, because if you think about it, what exactly does putting Cronholm in, and this is not through fault of Cronholm, he's just the beneficiary of all of this.
Yeah. Always, we like these players. We have nothing against these players. We're just trying to get what's the Fire to improve, of course. And that's we always, if players watch this, and we're always
shout
like,
out to you, first of all.
We like you guys, and always we want you guys to have success, and we want you guys to fight for everything and kick butt.
Definitely, which they do, and I don't doubt it at all. But again, so what difference does it really make to switch goalkeepers in the grand scheme of things? When,
supposedly,
like you said,
with passing tactics, supposedly.
Exactly, but it's again does that help the team defending the wings? Does that help the team scoring, which has been another issue? It really doesn't. So when you have a goalkeeper who, he's better with his feet, definitely, but shot stopping, Osted is the guy, and for as much as he made mistakes in San Jose, it was prime, of course. He saved the team plenty of times.
Oh yeah,
throughout the course of his tenure as a starter. But again, to see his collapse just from being the bona fide starter to being the third string or the odd man out, which I spoke to Richard Sanchez because I figured he would be the odd man out in this equation. Mm-hmm. And it turns out he didn't lose that much. If anything, he maintained his position as the backup so far. It's amazing. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with Usted.
I think Usted could have been an MLS All-Star for goalkeeper this season. If you really were watching, mm-hmm. and you saw what he was putting up, and if they gave him, instead of yanking him yanking his media credentials basically after the San Jose game, that's what they've done after, let's say it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They've 10 games now in a row that they have not gone with him. And the team was starting to gel. I thought the defense was starting to gel at that point, and Pano was just like, you know what? No. And I'm like, what are you doing? This might have been the thing that could have saved this, to fix this. The one thing you could have gotten right to help this defense gel is Usted. And not to mention Usted's leadership back there. It's way better than any other goalkeeper we've had for a while.
Absolutely. Especially again, after coming off of last year, in which we had, I believe we had Sanchez, we had Cleveland, we had Patty McLean, all at some point in goal.
McLean showed some flashes, even though being like basically a career USL backup or not
exactly.
Career, he's kind of basically. But
and so did Cleveland at the end.
Yeah.
And again,
USL goalkeeper player of the month, by the way, right?
There you go. Exactly. And funny how that works. But again, Osted came in, and he was supposed to be at least the a placeholder, a reliable placeholder for the future. Whoever that was. But again. To me, it's just a problem that was not necessary. And with everything that's been going on lately with the results, it all just exacerbates 10 times as worse as far as the scrutiny on Cronholm himself.
What's weird to me about, I'm going to totally change a little gears here, go back to our tactics talk. Paunovic strikes me as, like, at a certain point, he was kind of the fullback whisperer. He was managed to convert Matt Polster to right back from center, and had a lot of success there. And I'm liking what I'm seeing from Bronico in flashes anyway. And Bronico's just, he's just one of those grind set, hashtag grind set, great hard worker. He's going to work in a lot of
Yeah.
places. He can work at forward. He's like a Nico Hasler. He could work at forward. He can work at midfielder. He's just got the tenacity and the willpower to go hard. But going back to my comment here, though, is that this is a fullback. He's a fullback whisperer and also a fullback dependent coach that Nelson didn't give anything to. And as soon as he lost Brandon Vincent, that project went. As soon as that project went south, what was the replacement was Raheem Edwards, which was an attempt, but also a winger, not a flat out answer to the solution. Jorge Corrales, who is a USL reserve. I mean, like he's a USL starter. I think he's an MLS reserve and USL starter. He's good enough for spot starts in MLS, but maybe not good enough to hold down a starting position at left back.
Yeah, exactly. And
then what else at right back? You lost Gutman before the season starts, and you lose Polster.
Exactly. And I remember that they signed and they still have the homegrown kid Reynolds, Andre Reynolds, who we haven't seen yet.
It's a kid.
He started off injured, and he was from what I understood, he at least could be serviceable on both wingback positions. We never get to see him, but yeah, that was the massive failure from the transfer window.
It's Nelson handicapping him.
Yeah, definitely. And again, I think something to be said too. We don't know how much of all of this, when it comes to transfers and roster makeup, is 100% on Nelson. And how much is it with the okay from Pano himself? Because I imagine Pano has to approve of the roster, whether he does it begrudgingly. Again, we don't know any of this.
That's a great point.
Yeah, the dynamic, there's a chain of command, and Pano and Nelson are both in this process together. Yeah. I mean, we heard the stories. We heard them talk about how Pano helps recruit players. It happened with Gaetan. It happened to an extent with Calvo, with all these players. So, but at the same time, again, Nelson is the figurehead, and he's the one who is responsible for roster construction as the GM. So it falls on him, absolutely. And he has to be addressed between now and August 7th. It has to be, because, again, other than and at this point, I feel like that has become not the main issue anymore. To me, there's a whole bigger issue to all of this season so far, before the Fire can even think of turning it around anytime soon.
Here's how I think Nelson's like NASA, and he's given Pano this rocket ship, and he's given him the top of the rocket and CJ Sapong and Nikolic. He's given him like the mid part of the rocket, like an awesome midsection. It's super outfit. It's like to the nines. He's got Nico Gaetan. He's got Frankowski. He's got Katai. Yeah. He's got Mihailovic. He's got some freaking Matt. He's got Herbers, who's an awesome. He's showing a lot of good stuff. I think I like what I see from Herbers. Just an awesome fuselage. And Schweinsteiger's inside of that fuselage as well. And then you get to the bottom part of the ship, was where all the fuel is dispensed. And there's nothing there. There's just nothing there that Nelson has given Pano, and Pano is expected to get and then the fuel flies out of, like, instead of flying out the base of it, like the bottom of it, it flies out the middle because the base is non-existent. So this rocket ship is just wonky. It's an incomplete rocket ship that Pano is expected to get to the moon.
Wow, I like this anatomy of a rocket ship.
Right,
going on
and it's not that hard because striker's the top. You got the midfielders being the fuselage middle, and the middle and the fuselage, and then you have your defense being the back, and then your goalie is being like that ring right around the fuel. Yeah. Right, they have a good ring right around the fuel, but there's nothing around it because there's no base for it to go onto because there's nothing there. Yeah, so they're expected to get to the moon with like 3/4 of a rocket ship. And guess what? That just doesn't happen. Russia beats you to the punch if that happens. All right. So, I mean, we want to crucify Pano here for not getting the most out of this incredible 3/4 of a rocket ship, because 3/4 of this rocket ship is stellar. And there's maybe coaches in MLS that are doing less or doing more with less. Almeida, maybe the guy down in Houston. Caleb Porter's not really doing too well. I mean,
now. He looked like he was, but now we see that's kind of
Almeida
away.
Though. Exactly, it's a great case in point though. I think Vancouver too. There's a couple teams out there, and there's teams out there that are getting to the moon with a bicycle.
Yeah, Yeah,
And
basically. Yeah.
Pano has 3/4 of a rocket ship and can't get out of orbit. That's the issue.
Yeah, and
So now we have like, yeah, he's not getting the right parts, but he can't even get out of orbit.
yeah,
So
exactly. And all these like smaller ships that we thought, nah, they're not gonna get much anywhere.
Mhm.
Now they're taking off. Like New England is taking off.
they're flying ahead of
Orlando,
us.
Orlando
Russia,
has taken off. Absolutely, absolutely.
Iran,
Yeah, exactly. And it's
North
amazing to
Korea.
watch. Man, oh my god. I feel like if Columbus ever took off, that would be like North Korea taking off.
Yes. Yes,
Oh,
but
that
yeah,
would
that
just be like
basically.
just the bane of everybody's existence here,
Yeah,
for
that's what
sure.
it is. And
Hmm.
here's Pato too. He's got like a great cylinder around the base of the rocket ship, and he's like, no, I'm gonna go with the cheaper option in some places
Hmm.
too. So I mean, that's another issue. And issues
Yeah,
are compounding, and it's just sinking the ship, and it's preventing this spaceship from being able to even just launch.
yeah, definitely, definitely. But I'm thinking back of what you mentioned before, and when you talked about how at one point the defense was very stout. Like I remember they had.
We're starting to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it.
5-0 New England. 2
Yes.
games before the 4-1 loss to San Jose, where Usted loses his job.
Hmm. Exactly, and but they had like a streak of a shutout streak. Not all were victories, but they had a streak, a scoreless streak that went about 3 or 4 games, if I'm not
Five,
mistaken.
5
Yeah,
games. I'm
even
looking at it.
better, even better. Which that also happened to coincide with the arrival of Calvo at the time, if you remember correctly,
Let's dig
because
into Calvo because he's an interesting case.
yeah, yeah, no, definitely. But he came in for the LAFC game.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, that's when that streak began, and we saw him and Schweinsteiger solidified. Kappelhoff was the right back, left back was again whoever, Corrales, Edwards, whoever, and we saw it, but again, to me it goes back to the question of there's no consistency as far as what this team wants to do on the field, because when that streak happened, when the defense was stout, is when we saw a defense that played hold and counter, which is not what Paunovic wants out of this team. When they reverted back to what they originally wanted of this team, and what they're trying to do now, that's when we started to see more of the issues defensively. And now, again, we see what's happening now. So I don't
Wow.
know. It's
Failure of
just,
management.
yeah, and it's just a big identity crisis. And to me, and I alluded to earlier, the bigger issue now is that we see this team, the players on the field confused. We see them, the morale is just, the confidence is just really low. It's really low. And if a lot of times it feels like they're playing not scared, but they're so trepidant to make mistakes, especially in the back. And
But
that is a killer. To me, that is a season killer. If your players are down, if your players are not confident, uh, you're in agony.
Bobby
You're
Warshaw was talking about that. They're you could see
Mhm.
off their body language. They are not confident last game or this game. They were confident that Atlanta game. They
Oh
really
yeah,
were.
for sure.
But before that and since then, they haven't. They had it for one game. And then I saw in your article, I was reading your article. I'll make sure I tweet. I'll have that in the details in the description.
Hmm.
But that and I tweeted this out that they had a 5-game window and they got a tie, a loss, a win, and a loss, and a loss. And that was supposedly good enough for Paunovic to keep his job. And my jaw dropped. I'm like, that is some hashtag ambition, right on display right there. And
Yeah,
that's the trend the entire season. And that's why he's on the shelf anyway. And that's why he's on the hot seat now. And he does the exact same thing. And that's good enough. It just doesn't make sense.
yeah. Which that was one of the things about the roundtable that I wish one of my colleagues would have asked and would have followed up on is.
It's hard though, I imagine,
Oh,
because
for sure, especially
it sounds
when.
like
Yeah,
there's some thin skin around.
and also, I mean, of course, like I've been to a few of those roundtables when you have like a 1 question limit per turn, and there's only 2 rounds. Like, you're trying to get your questions in, and it's limiting, definitely, and of course for a reason. Like,
Well,
I
yeah.
get it, but I wish someone would have followed up on it and said, what exactly what exactly does that window entail as far as the end? Like, if that window, like you said, and like Nelson said, if that window wasn't, the results weren't up to par, which they weren't, and he
No.
said it. Like, what exactly was the purpose of that window? Because he made it sound like it was only about, okay, if we don't get the results from here through Cincinnati,
We'll be
okay,
this amount mad. But
yeah,
if we get that amount, if we get more points, we'll be this amount mad.
exactly. And the only repercussion was, okay, now we're open for business. And it makes you think, okay, what exactly what's the purpose of that exactly? Like, are you telling me, okay, now you're opening the door for a sell-off to an extent, or are you opening the door to acquire more? To me, I'm still uncertain about that exactly. Like, what
And
was
then
the
he goes and
purpose
says
of
that he
this
put down a
deadline?
$5 million bid for a winger.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
for another winger. What is this guy doing? Hotman, Suedo, are you guys not paying attention? Do you guys not read the papers, read the articles? Because it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that this guy is a chicken with his head cut off.
Yeah, that was I mean, that was amazing. Definitely, you're right.
We can move
And
past it if you want to, but I got some other stuff to
yeah,
fry.
no, the last thing too is,
Yeah.
again, when it comes to the fullbacks as well, and I guess the police are coming for me, so
Nelson, damn it!
if I disappear, then you know what happened. With the fullbacks also, I didn't sense that much urgency. He talked about we need to bring more competition. Let's
I
see if
heard
it
Jonathan
happens.
Bordstein, his name floated out there.
I mean, again,
34-year-old American left back, played for an Israeli team, I think.
veteran presence is good, but I don't know who he is now. What is Jonathan Borstein in 2019 that you can say, okay, we have a reliable left back option if you're the Chicago Fire? I don't know.
I don't know. I think there's guys in League Two you could probably try and go snipe, but Nelson doesn't pay enough attention. Calvo, this is one thing I saw right there at the end of the game. Calvo versus Katai having a little bit of a shouting match. Who do you think has the bigger swag?
Oh man, I don't know. Let's see, because like Calvo has, like, he flashes his swag, like,
Right?
I mean, you can see it on the field, and even off the field. Like, I've talked to the guy, and he's super cool. Like, man, the guy, he doesn't get phased.
Exudes confidence.
Oh, totally. Katai, it's like his swagger is like totally quiet. Like, his body language is his swagger. Like, I don't know. Like, see, like, I feel like it's a toss up, and I have to go with support
Two different displays almost.
Exactly. If I had to choose one, like, I would go with my my fellow Latino. How could it not? With Calvo. I gotta support my people, man. I gotta support my people. Yeah.
I've liked a lot of what I've seen from Calvo, but then I've also did not like some things. I like his fire. I like his passion. I think that the dude carries a chip on his shoulder and swag. And I think that, like you said too, when he came to this team, something changed a little bit for the better. I think in that locker room, at least he added a little more like pickup, a little more fire. Like, hey guys, come on, let's go, right? But also, I see once or twice, I'll see a little bit of a loaf, like the last game where I saw him give up a goal to Fernando Adi, or what's his face, from because he kind of just like slowly came over, and I'm like, and the dude has the physicality and the ability to. So I wonder about those instances, just those lapses of focus.
I was shocked when I saw that goal. That he gave up against Cincinnati, because I just thought that's not like him, at least from what we've seen. Like, you said it right,
I
James.
think from Minnesota fans would say that is like
probably, yeah. Probably, but I mean, since he's come to the Fire, like I said it at the time, I'm like,
we've liked it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, Calvo, when it comes to signings this season, and this is this was Gaitan aside, because I think Gaitan is in a league of his own when it comes to signings in this team. But Calvo, even with Marcelo aboard, I'm like, Calvo was the guy. that the Fire needed a
Sapong,
center back.
though, that's another potential signing of the season for
Oh,
Nelson.
for sure.
How does
He's been
Nelson
amazing.
how does Nelson have these actual candidates for signings of the season? Because he did nab Calvo, he did nab Sapong, he did nab Gaetan, he did nab Frankowski, and we're here still like yelling at this guy, like, "Hey, we understand you can get talent, put together a team."
Exactly, but again, there's still holes, and that's why why we're holding him accountable, and again that goes to Pano's responsibility because he has those pieces. This isn't 2018.
No,
this is 2019, and
not even 2017.
Exactly, and Nelson has made an effort to bring proven players like Calvo, like Sapong, like Frankowski, and we can go on and on and on.
Seriously.
Even like the bench players like Herbers, like even like Christian Martinez, the Muniz has played in so far on the field, and again it makes it even just more dumbfounded. Even Jeremiah Gutierrez, who is a forgotten name, who had a great spell when he started at left back, another makeshift left back, did a serviceable job and has just been forgotten about.
Yeah, but the thing is, Nelson's just come over here and he's dumped a whole bunch of wet sand right on Pano's lap, and he's given him 2 different pails to make a castle out of, instead of 3 or 4. And so maybe there's a problem. And Pano's like, he's not the greatest 1 or 2 pail salesman. He can make more intricate maybe if you give him a little bit more, couple more different pails, i.e. a right back and a left back. and maybe he'll be able to piece it together, but he's not able to piece this together. So I'm wondering at what point we see Nelson willing to move on from his soccer soulmate.
We'll see. I mean, I'm still, I don't know the chances of Nelson getting rid of Pano. I think
what do you think if you could put an estimate, a total guesstimate on it?
I mean, I think at this point it might be like 20%, because I'm convinced if one goes, the other goes too. They go together.
So you think that Pano's here 80%, like 80%, Pano's pretty much here for the rast of the season. 20%, maybe he's fired. Wow.
I think so, because I just think I mean, think about it, James, because this last couple of years,
the results. Look at the evidence.
And I get it, like, and I understand completely. Trust me, the evidence is like a mountain of evidence that is completely.
Well, I'm saying, look at the evidence that he's going to keep his job. I'm saying you're right. There's so much. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, all you have to do is just listen to Nelson throughout this last couple of years when the team has been so poor on the field, and he's stuck with this guy all along, and so much that he brought him back and sent him to an extension. So to me, again, if that's the only reason I give it such a low percentage, is because I don't see Nelson really making that decision unless the decision comes from above. And again, we have zero idea exactly how much Andrew Hotman or Joe Mansueto really have, how much influence do they really have in these soccer decisions with this team. So I think, again, and the only other option is Pano straight up quitting. That's the only other option.
Resigning.
Yeah,
wow.
Absolutely. Which,
in shame.
Honestly, like, I can see that, and I'll go out on a limb and say I can see that being more likely than him getting fired by Nelson.
Wow. Absolutely. That's how great, and I'm saying this with so much sarcasm, that's how great of a general manager of men that Nelson Rodriguez is, that he's willing to let Pano just fall on his own sword.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens.
Great boss.
Yeah, man, because, again, let's not forget, Pano is he's got 2 more years.
He's still here.
Yeah, he's still here. So they gotta figure that out. Which, again, I think that's when the ownership aspect of it will come in, and that might play in favor of Pano keeping his job, or that might not be an issue. That might not be an obstacle. There's just so much to this but it all could happen at any point too, because we don't know anything. We don't really know anything at this point.
Jeffrey and I have also speculated this. We wonder if Veljko Paunovic might actually have more success divesting himself of Nelson Rodriguez. Like, it might be for Paunovic's own success and for career advancement to get rid of the welterweight or whatever the heck Nelson Rodriguez is, because he's just an anchor. Is an albatross on the wing of or on the neck of tradition, and he's just weighing Pauno down. I wonder. I mean, that's just a speculation.
Yeah,
and maybe Paunovic might have success elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, but there's only one way to find out, and that's when the day that Pauno leaves the fire.
Yeah,
and we'll find out.
And
really.
lets Nelson hang himself. You know what? He should, in a metaphorical sense. Let's change gears slightly, because I'm sure I got a whole bunch of questions from the chat. Everybody's asking questions. Everybody's got a whole bunch of stuff. Let's take it down. I see Jiggly's running amok in there. Thank you, Jiggly, our moderator and our usual part-time co-host. But let's dig into the death of 90 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll talk maybe a little roundtable in future and the questions to kind of close it off a little bit later. But what happened with 90 minutes?
I mean, I honestly, like, you all know as much as I do. Like, quite frankly, I was on vacation in Miami for a week right off of the Atlanta game and the Champions League final. And I came back almost a week later on a Monday to the news that Tribune had decided that 90 Minutes was shutting down. They were the ones who closed the curtain on the website
before the World Cup had ended too. Before the Women's World Cup had ended.
It was in the middle of the Women's World Cup and the middle of the Gold Cup, which of course was had the final here. We were all geared up to have the coverage. And of course to continue with the coverage of the Fire for the rest of the season. So, but again, I came in one day and, I was informed by my direct bosses that, it was the end, and they didn't have a reason specifically why. They just said, it was a decision that came from above at the Tribune, way above all of our pay grades who were directly involved with the site. And that was the end of it. So, if you, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but if you go to the site, it redirects to, Pro Soccer USA, which is also a Tribune property. Great job that they do out of the Orlando Sentinel.
Danny Santaramita.
Yeah, absolutely, and he does a fantastic job, and they do a great job with MLS. But
we've had Danny on; he's a great guy.
Yeah, absolutely. So and that was it, and it kind of just left this hole just cold and kind of like a little bit naked and just with a big gap in our hearts, because and you guys kind of saw what I posted on Twitter afterwards, how that was for me personally, and I open up about this because to me it also serves for people who are in this business. 90 Minutes was my first job out of college after I finished my master's at DePaul, which is the reason why I came to Chicago.
Let's make this clear. You got paid to watch soccer and talk about it.
Absolutely. And
the dream.
It was exactly. I got my dream job right out of grad school at DePaul, and it was incredible. And of course, it wasn't without its trip ups and its growing pains. But 90 Minutes, it became really just a pleasure of a job to have. And for me, of course, that's what got me into the Fire to begin with, was 90 Minutes. And who
was your first love before that? Colombian teams, I imagine.
Oh, absolutely. Of course, the national team is first and foremost. Of course, my team there is Atlético Nacional, two-time Copa Libertadores winner.
By the way, do you know where James is going?
I have no idea.
Atletico, where is he going?
And no one knows. It was like Napoli one day. It was in Atletico Madrid. Yeah, who knows? Like,
Chicago Fire, is Nelson in?
Oh my God!
Jesus
Don't even mention it. Like I would like become a season ticket holder. Like
who would it?
Oh, of course. Like,
oh my God, you know what? Okay, Nelson Rodriguez, you want to save your job, you want to save the Fire, go get James Rodriguez, because maybe do you think he would outdraw Lewandowski or Chicharito?
No. We're not enough Colombians in the city, unfortunately.
But James Rodriguez,
we'll all be there, that's for sure.
But James still would be an incredible player.
I mean, just I don't even want to think about it because it's
Yeah, okay, yeah, James.
Yeah. But yeah, so again, and
your Colombian team. What's your favorite Colombian team?
Atlético Nacional from Medellin, which is where I'm from.
That's like the main Colombian team, isn't it?
Oh yeah, we're the best team, man. 16 time champions. were it, you know. So that's why I joined them, and you know, from my hometown as well of Medellin. So shout out to my hometown.
So you
But
came to 90
yeah,
minutes though, and you got Chicago Fire basically right out of college. So they're like, oh, so that's kind of you just became your MLS team then?
yeah. Basically, and I mean, like and I'll put this out there because
Yeah, whatever.
from and I've heard this from from people at the club, and they know who they are, who think that I'm actually a supporter. I'm not. I'm not a Fire supporter. I've never been a Fire supporter.
Mhm.
And I really, I'm not. Now that I'm off the beat. I'm not. I follow the team, and of course you have an attachment because you were so close. You
You're
followed it
very
like so close.
knowledgeable of them.
Of
Yeah.
course, and I was there, and I got to talk to so many of the players that
Mhm.
I kind of, that's why, it was such a pain to see Mo Adams go, because it was such a cool guy, to me, and I liked him so much as a player. But I've never been a supporter, so I'll put that out there just so people know. I'm not a fan of the Fire. I just, I follow the team from afar
Mhm.
because the attachment that I have to the team now, and I wanted to do well, of course, because as a Chicago adopted Chicagoan, I wanted to do well, just like I want the Red Stars to do well, and everybody here in Chicago just for that. So, but yeah, so that was 90 minutes. So for like about a month now, it's been dead, and I've moved on to different duties within Tribuna, still as a freelancer now with the Spanish newspaper with Oi.
Well, I'm sorry to hear about 90 minutes. I was sorry to hear
Mhm.
that when it happened. It was not fun. We loved it. It was great. It was
Thank you, and again, I wrote it at the time, but I want to say it again. Thank you to everybody because you made my first experience as a reporter really great, and it was kept alive because of you. So
well,
and you pay my salary, so thank you so much.
we had Brian Sandalo on our podcast
Mhm.
before, and he talks about it too. It's Fire fans need they need to click some of these articles. They need to open some of these articles. They need to like
Mhm.
these things because otherwise, this is what happens.
Yeah, absolutely, and of course
But is it on the fans or is it on the fans to like this product? Or
Mhm.
because I mean, here you guys are trying to present this product, but it's not like the front office or the team is doing you guys any favors. But then also they're trying, but then they're really missing the bucket. It's just a whole. It's all wrong.
Yeah.
It's
Uh,
just all wrong.
yeah, I mean, yeah.
That's what the fact of the matter is. It's all wrong in Chicago. It's backwards. Up is down, but it's not even up is down because up is left.
And also, I mean, there's a lot to it, and like, of course, like part of it too, and I don't want to speak for any of my colleagues, but we all struggle with our employers. I know, quote unquote, I'm a freelancer, so
Mm.
because of lack of support, and I'll put it out there too, and um, the just is, unfortunately, soccer is not a priority to this to a lot of the media companies,
It blows
and
my mind. It's the
and
biggest.
and we suffer for it, and the fans suffer for it as well. We try to make the most out of the little that we have, but ultimately, it just all seems to just die a painful death, and it's a painful cycle, unfortunately. But definitely, like you said, for those who are still there, and of course, Guillermo and Danny and Brian and Oren.
Support these guys.
Absolutely, absolutely, and they provide great content. I know there's also the paywalls are a thing. I get that, and that's annoying. I understand it, but if you can, for sure, because especially I remember last year with all the thing with the fans and the supporter stuff and everything. If it wasn't for the coverage that was there, then that I don't think it would have been the resolution wouldn't have come as it came, and thankfully I was able to be upfront with it, with that coverage of the supporter stuff, and
Wow.
that's our role as
Think
journalists.
about that. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
absolutely. So yeah, but again, definitely
That's awesome,
support
Juan.
all the guys, and also if you don't mind me, a quick plug
No,
here, support
plug,
also
plug.
definitely.
Oh, wait, plug again, plug again. The audio dropped. Wait, Juan, I lost you. Oh no, Juan, we lost.
All right, am I good now?
You're back. All right, you're
Am
back.
I good? Sorry, yeah. My phone
Right
died.
as you were
I had to
plugging.
plug it in. Oh my god, it's a mess here. I feel like it's karma for like talking about all this stuff now.
Oh, whatever.
But yeah, so for those who don't know, I'm sure some of you are aware, Second City Soccer.
Mm.
So
I'll put the link. I'll make sure I have all these links in the description.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. So for those of you who've seen Second City Soccer, is kind of a new outlet here in the city. That's on me. I created that Second City Soccer, kind of as a result mainly of the death of 90 Minutes, with a few people that are great, that are up and coming writers in the city. So the guy who covers the Fire for me is Ernesto Hernandez, who you've seen has been the guy live tweeting from our account, and he follows the Fire pretty closely. So definitely support him as well, and everything, and in all our content as well. We have Sandra Herrera, who's to me
big Red Stars.
Absolutely, to me she's the boss when it comes to coverage of women's soccer in the city.
Jiggly's always touting her. Jiggly
absolutely.
says
She's on our website as well, and we got college soccer as well with a couple of guys who covered college sports, Andrew Hattersley and Lawrence Kramer. So definitely Second City Soccer, that's where it's at for us. But Ernesto, again, with Oren, Guillermo, Brian, Danny, support him for sure.
Like their things, click their things, do what you can to support these guys, because otherwise the Fire is just going to go away. Support what you love. That's what we always try to say here. And also support local, right?
Yes.
Support your local stuff. Okay, we'll put the death of 90 Minutes here to bed with maybe my one last. I'm going to go in a little off campus question here, and you can kind of take it as what as you will, and you can move on from it. Conspiracy against soccer in America. Is there a secret conspiracy against soccer in America? I wonder this because I'm like, it doesn't make sense why. It just doesn't make sense to me why soccer is not the biggest sport here. When you got when NFL and NBA and I think NFL, there's NFL owners who own MLS teams. I mean, that's where I think when I talk about conspiracy, I'm just saying like there's people who are there, and I just wonder if they're there just to kind of muck up the waters and kind of slow down soccer's rise in America for some reason.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far. That would be just a massive conspiracy if it were true. Like,
there's got to be
and it would be something like.
You're right. There's no way.
No, I mean, like honestly, like, and this is gonna sound like super harsh, but like if you're the other sports, like, do you really care enough to like actually try to like purposely like sabotage soccer when you have like NBA?
If you're the NFL. Maybe.
I mean, yeah, I don't know, but I just think it's more
football versus football. They're still fighting that war.
Yeah, well, that's
right.
They have their own issues, but I think, I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's through anyone sabotaging soccer. I think it's just more soccer. So, I mean, MLS is like not even 30 years old.
And that's the other thing. MLS and Federation, the U.S. Federation, seems like they're not even doing all that they can to kind of make MLS be the best. So that's a little weird too.
I think if anything, it's just like the fault of the league itself and the federation. I think that's the main obstacle, of this.
So it's not a conspiracy; it's just more of human failure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is usually the case. For
that's exactly.
All right, so that covers that. Let's get into this roundtable real quick. I think your article pretty much summed it up. There was almost nothing new. One of our favorite tweeters out there, Doug, was saying, or somebody was saying about like, how many, the over under for how long he's going to talk about this award that they won for humanitarian and how much that's going to take up the press conference. It's just like, when you look at it, he took up a chunk. And then a couple of him saying that he's doing a good job. I think that was a quote.
That was a quote. Yeah, he believes
I'm doing a good job. I know Soccer Eagle, their beaks dropped from that one, and I think so did a lot of Fire fans because there's no way in heck if any person, there's probably not a single person out there who pays attention to MLS that is a fan or as a pundit or as a reader that would say that this guy's getting a passing grade. And he's doing anything close to a good job. But then again, think about those hits we talked about earlier. Calvo, Sapong. I mean, but then again, we're talking about an incomplete roster of 3/4 of a racket here. So it's like, yes, you You put together a great 3/4 of a rocket. That is some impressive parts. Look, I could tell you did not buy those in China, except for Gaetan. I could tell. Those are all American made.
Damn right.
Right? Or something like that. But you're missing the whole part where that will get you out of the orbit. And and because you don't have that whole part, you can't escape.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have that whole part, it becomes a straight shot and they could get there. So that comes on Nelson. And here's Nelson to this round table. And I feel like we just kind of get rained on, and it's not rain, it's yellow.
Oh wow. Golden shower, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not trying to be too graphic about it.
Wow. Well, I mean.
But yeah.
It is, it is 10:30 at night. It's like, spitting fire after dark, if you will. I mean, look, it all depends on who's looking at it, and we all have different parameters for what, how to evaluate Nelson from from an outsider standpoint. I think number one, on the award, I think he has every right to tout it because
absolutely, it's a great award. Earned it.
Absolutely, and if anything, for all the on the pitch stuff, if there's something this Fire team has done or this organization has done excellently as an organization under Nelson is the community stuff. And that's undeniable.
Amazing community stuff. We know a couple of their people, and they have just some awesome people who are involved in that in the organization.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, he has every right to, and the Fire has every right to pump their chest about it for sure.
Be proud. Yeah,
absolutely. Now on the pitch, again, I think he put the bar himself. It's about results ultimately. So it's about winning.
He told us it was about trophies at the beginning of the season.
Exactly. And, he and Pano and the players from day one this season, knowing the job that they did, that Nelson did in the roster construction, again, with that little caveat, that little hole still, with the fullbacks, that they always said playoffs. That's the goal. And right now, they're not in the playoff zone.
They're close, though. They're actually surprisingly close.
But
that's squeaking in, right?
Yeah, exactly. And he kind of he of course he's gonna look at it from the standpoint of we're close. I look at it from the standpoint of it's not good enough by far.
No, it's a great way.
Yeah, when I believe now. Let me check.
I'm looking at the table. The Fire in 10th place, 23 points, and 7th place is the cutoff. That's NYCFC with 29 points. By the way, NYCFC has 4 games in hand. Toronto, by the way, is on 21 games, so they have 1 game in hand, and they're also on 29 points. So that's the cutoff. They're 6 points behind right now with it's 22 games played out of 34. So they have 12 games left.
Yeah. So, and again, and
12 games.
If I'm not mistaken, this is the biggest gap all season between the Fire and the last playoff spot, not counting the times they've snuck in the 7th place.
Mm-hmm.
So again, if they're gonna set the bar with the results, then that's how we're gonna measure them, and it's a no. It's a bad job out of Nelson as the GM and especially as the GM, because again, president is the entire organization. As the GM, it's a failing grade.
He picked Pano, and he also decided to keep employing Pano instead of sacking Pano. So guess what, Pano? Or guess what, Nelson? All of Pano's failures are reflective of Nelson, and so they are joined at the hip in a way, in such a weird way.
Yeah, and even if they weren't, like, again, he is the leader, the figurehead of this operation on the field, and again, whether it's directly his fault or not, like we talked about, with decision making as far as the rock and whatever, it's always going to be on him because he's at the top and he's the leader of this operation. So the responsibility is going to be on him. Absolutely, just like a coach.
Go down with his ship.
Exactly, just like a coach, takes responsibility for what happens during a game first and foremost, for good and for bad. Same thing when it comes to the GM, and that's and again the results. But it's very, very low, very, very much below where they want it to be, and where I think as outsiders as we are, we expected them to be.
Especially with the amount of talent that they really do have in so
Absolutely,
many
yeah.
places.
Hmm.
All right, we'll start getting close to closing it down here.
Yeah.
Let's see. We'll talk briefly about kind of what we expect for the Fire future. And I'm going to rip through these questions real quick before we kind of dig into that. I'm sure that'll come up, actually, probably.
Yeah, you know it, yeah.
Ellie Beaven clocking and say hello. Was trading Mo Adams a bad move for the Fire?
Right now, yes, absolutely. And again, we'll see what happens with this, follow-up move that kind of Nelson alluded to as the motivation.
Oh, and he got Gam for next season, not even for this season out of the deal, right? So that's
yeah, exactly. So all $100,000 comes next season.
I also heard that Mo Adams might have not been protected from an expansion draft.
So that was the explanation from Nelson during the roundtable was they didn't see Adams in the 11 protected players, and they didn't want to lose him for 50,000 potentially as an expansion pick from Nashville.
Damn, I think that like Atlanta got a cut rate deal here though for 100 Gam. And you get Adams. I feel like that's a worth punt. I would take that punt. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, like the financials, I guess, make sense. At the same time, Adams, I think he was the rightful successor to Dax.
Yeah,
in that position, and he's a guy. And not even think about the future. I think today he was a very useful piece, and he was a guy who provided something to this team that no one else did, which is aggressiveness. A guy who can cover the field from end line to end line, who can recover the ball, who can fight for every ball, like with an energy that no one else brings. And I think
tenacious defender.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, after Dax, who's there in that position? It was
Brand, but he's not really defensive. Wow. Bastian Schweinsteiger.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Or I mean, it would have been Brent Bronico, who's the jack of all trades, and he'll cover for you wherever you need him. But he's not. Again, he's not that guy.
Yeah,
absolutely. So today, right now, my answer is yes. It was a mistake.
It's a bad move. Yeah, I think so too. El Roto saying I'm really actually sad. Hashtag Pano out from Fraley. Smith saying Fire should have kept attacking. Jiggly saying fun. New guest Juan. Polish Monster. I honestly don't even get sad mad anymore. Just pure apathy. I could kind of definitely. I feel that. Kronholm is reason enough to fire Pano. Says Slow Days. I don't know about that, but his willingness to stick with him and the Usted whole debacle, I think that in a microcosm, yes.
Yeah, and not only that, but Pano himself is a guy who's been in front of the bandwagon, if you will, for bringing Kronholm. So his fingerprints are all over this from the beginning.
And Arkashian, and also Jorge Bava.
Yeah.
Jiggly saying, I have no opinions after this game. We scored while I was in the capo stand and the capo stand, and the game went downhill once I came back down. So Jiggly was checking out. Usted did all of that with Marcelo in the back line, says Slow Days. Usted did that success with Marcelo.
Wow.
Who has not impressed and is getting paid a lot of money.
Yes,
maybe a miss for Nelson, but compared to everybody else, he's had a lot of hits.
Oh yeah, I mean, of course, yeah,
but still didn't fill the needed holes. It's like okay, you know what this is? This is an incomplete. I want to give this guy I would love Nelson. I'd love to give you an A. You came up with all this great talent, but this essay is just nothing but stolen quotes. And it's incomplete. There's no form to this essay, and it's evident. There's evidence here. You did the research, you did the reading, you came up with the thoughts, and you thought about it for some time. But guess what? You didn't do the hard work, and you didn't complete the assignment. So guess what? This is a failure. This is an incomplete assignment.
Can I throw in another analogy? If you
yeah, dude.
I feel like this team is like you have a nice table, right? A nice wooden table that's limp, and you try to put hand cooked like a napkin in that short leg that makes it tumble. You put like a napkin, you put like a rock, you put That's the fullback position right there. Like the one that makes the table tip over.
And it just keeps tipping.
Exactly, and you keep putting in things like just to balance it, and it's still not balanced.
A
I think
rock,
that's
a
yeah,
dog treat, a quarter,
exactly. A sock, yeah,
a
like a moldy bread, yeah,
piece of
totally,
bread.
exactly. And it's still not balanced. I feel like that's like the roster right now for the Fire, stable enough to where it can be good, but not complete, like you
Not
said.
John Smith saying, I heard it was a contract issue with Usted. If he played a certain amount of minutes, he gets paid more.
I'm not fully certain. I know that if I'm not mistaken, there might be some some bonuses, if you will, some performance risers, if you will.
Mm.
I doubt that was the case, because like that's something that I can see happening towards the end of the season when the minutes are closing in. And I mean, teams do that all the time, but like for it to happen
We've
now,
heard stories. We've heard stories about Hotman.
well,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I don't. Honestly, like I don't know what it is. I
Maybe.
honestly just do not know what it is.
Maybe it's something else. It's probably it seems like.
Yeah.
Pay the man, says Slow Days. Pano's post game comments this is from Jiggly. Pano's post game comments is we will fix it. And Jiggly says, discuss. That's what Pano's post game comments are.
Okay.
We will fix. Do we have faith that Pano will fix this? If I gave Pano 10 years, yes, I feel like he could fix it. But I don't have 10 years. Yeah. I have 12 games.
Maybe 10 years and 10 million to spend on fullbacks. Maybe that'll fix it.
Maybe that changes my decision, but I have 12 games left. And no, Pano, I don't believe will fix this to get into the season to make a cup run. I mean, maybe they get there, but I don't think they end up with the cup. They fall short.
Yeah, and again, it all goes back to what we talked about, the morale aspect.
Sorry, I was selling my puppy.
Oh, okay. So it'd be like your fiance or something. I'm like, man.
Well, my fiance and puppy came in. So.
Maybe we should, maybe we should give you guys some time, Maybe it's really after dark here.
She's a good girl.
Your fiance or your both? No.
The puppy.
Okay,
good. And my
no, yeah, but again, to me the biggest issue is on morale, and it's gonna be up to Pano. Do I see him? Do I see him fixing it? And again, he's been saying this for so long now.
For 3 years.
I really today I don't really have faith that he can do much at this point. And I've we kind of mentioned this at OI on the air on Monday night. On Monday, there's a Spanish language show at OI that I'm a part of, and it was revealed then, and I can say this, now that it's being public. We know that there's a disconnect. We've heard from people close to players in the team that there's a disconnect between Pano and the players. That maybe Pano doesn't have the ear of the players as much anymore, if not at all, and that includes like some
high level players.
Definitely.
Yeah, and it's not hard to see. It's not hard to see because Jeffrey and I could see it in the body language of specific World Cup winning players and other players on the roster.
Yeah, I'll give you a name so you can have the for the people listening, for a reward for staying up.
You're in the know.
I'll tell you, Gaitan is one of those players.
Wow, does not believe.
Yeah, from what we found out at OI, and again, this was told publicly in Spanish on Monday, so
yeah,
I feel like
so
I can talk.
Yeah, you can.
It's out there, even if it's another language.
Translate, Google Translate.
Yeah, exactly. Don't by all means like hit me up if you need your translations. Don't do yourself a favor.
Okay.
Don't look like a fool with Google Translate, especially in Spanish. The things you see with Google Translate.
Oh, really? I did not know. Well,
yeah,
I'm not a native speaker.
Well, yeah, I'm just fair warning, but yeah. So that we heard that from
concerning
people close from the players that yeah. And again, I hear that, and to me, again, when Pano says we'll fix it, I don't know how. I really don't know how at this point.
I heard Dax McCarty go on a podcast with Benny Fallheiber last week. Really good podcast. It was awesome. And he was just talking about how Jesse March, he said, was one of the greatest coaches that he had. And even though it ended like on bad terms a little bit, and they've kind of fixed it a little since then, he still thinks he's one of the best coaches. And there is nary a mention of Paunovic. And I could kind of read between the lines, and it just didn't sound – he was asked about his best coaches. Once again, nary a scant mention of Paunovic. Doesn't even enter the conversation. So, when you read into these, and you could start seeing these cracks in the armor, and it's just not looking good from the outside in. And that's why it's like, how do all of us know that change is needed while the people who are there don't? But you know what? I've watched Moneyball, so I could tell why you kind of want to stick with your guy.
Definitely. Sorry to cut you off, James, no. I'll throw in, what we mentioned before with the Ousted stuff. Again, the fact that Pano didn't inform Ousted about the change before announcing it to the world, that in itself, and Ousted reaction afterwards, to me, that told me a lot. And I mean, that might have been just fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
Not just for the goalkeeper room, but if you're a Dax, like a captain, if you're anyone, and you're looking at that, how does that make you feel about your own role and any changes that might come and the communication with Pano?
That's poor management. And when you're looking at your king and you just realize that he has no clothes, and it's the funny thing for these players is they know this guy has no clothes, but they like playing with him because he's a fun dude. He's probably a fun, fiery type of guy who likes to play soccer, and that's why they like him around. But at the same time, he's just not putting it together to bring him to the next level.
I'll do you one better. We're at the point when they're looking at the king with no clothes and just kind of, telling him he looks great.
Yeah.
Now it's to the point where they're just kind of looking away.
Oh, damn. Shamed.
So, and I'll say, I say that in the regards to, if you notice. And I've noticed this before, Nelson is still the guy who backs Pano publicly. The players always hail Pano in the highest regards, always, no matter what. They talked about Pano in the highest of terms, no matter how bad things were. And I feel like that's kind of winning a little bit. Like you brought up the Dax example from the podcast.
Yeah.
I'm not noticing it as much anymore, that they're going out of their way like they used to before to maybe not defend Pano, but really hail Pano as a guy that they they fight for, that they're willing to do anything for, and it's something that I just kind of realized when you're making that analogy. So I mean, that might be something, again, another indication of what might be happening in the locker room.
Yeah, I mean, that's always what we're wondering. What is happening in the locker room? And is it corroding? Is it something's happening? There's always something happening, and they're trying to come together. They are trying to come together and try and win soccer games, but they got inputs from all over, and it's just not working out.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll turn to a couple more comments here. Everybody in the chat, smash that like button. Throw out your last comments here for Juan. Thank you so much for coming on, man. It's been a blast. It's been freaking awesome.
It's been fun. Soccer. It's been fun, of course. Yeah. Shout out to everybody in the chat.
And shout out to everybody listening to After the Fact. Oh man, we got some questions here. Let's see.
Oh man.
So we will fix it. We said I don't have a lot of faith Pano's going to fix it. Slowday saying he won't, he can't. How do you fix a problem when your ideas are the source of the problem?
That's a good point. Yeah.
San Jose is one of the worst rosters in the league, and look at what they've done with a good coach. Can we talk about Marcelo being subbed in for Gaetan and Katai for Georgie, but Herbers and Bronico stayed in the game? Why are we taking Gaetan and Georgie out? Why are we taking Gaetan and Georgie out so early when we see what they can do, i.e. Georgie's goal and Gaetan's bicycle, and then switching to this defensive you were talking about earlier in the podcast, really?
Yeah, it was weird. It was weird, and it's just one more wrinkle in this inconsistency that we've seen, from Pano. And Pano has talked about it before. Pano has explained, there's no one set system. They like to adapt to the opponent, to the situation. And again, that's fine. But at the same time, what does that do to your players during the course of a game? when you're putting Marcelo at right wing back, when again you're taking out.
I thought I saw Calvo at left back,
To start the game, which is fine because he's done that before. So again,
but he doesn't like to. That's why he was so mad at the Minnesota coach.
Exactly, and he's been so good at center back. But again, but it was strange today, and the way that the viewer laid it out, it just kind of blows my mind because you're taking out the entire spinal cord except for Basher Schweinsteiger off the field.
Mm-hmm. You took out your spinal cord. It just becomes a Pokemon named Muck. It's just just the life. It's just no bones. How can it go anywhere? It's jelly.
Exactly, to defend a 1-goal lead.
Oh wow, and not even that great of a lead. And they weren't at that point in time. We didn't see a whole lot of success. Well, the first 45 was so different from that last 45.
Absolutely, which tends to happen, unfortunately.
Which tends to happen a lot under this team. Come on, they need a new voice. I don't know if you know Bella Gutman. Bella Gutman was this old soccer coach.
Oh yeah, the curse of Bella Gutman.
The curse of Bella Gutman is like 3 years, and like he would have success in those 3 years, kind of like Jose Mourinho type. And then after the third year, he had to go because everybody just was like, no, we can't handle this guy anymore. And they would win sometime in those first 3 years.
Yeah.
But after that, it would just come crashing down. Right now, we're in the 4th year.
Yeah, man, exactly.
Why don't they go after DMB if they want an old left back? DMB, DeMarcus Beasley. I think he's basically retired.
Bring him out of retirement, yes.
Basti almost scored an own goal. I think so did Calvo tonight due to lack of communication between him and Kronholm. Talented individuals do not make a team, says Slow Days.
That's true.
That's very true.
That is true.
Pano has also saying Pano has no style, so how can Nelson go out and get players that work together for a non-existent play style? We've talked about that a little bit.
Definitely, and I feel like when it comes to style, like we like you said, James, we talked about it before. The style, I feel like it's well established from the middle up, not the back. Also, it's an incomplete philosophy.
It's incomplete. So it's how could they even start anywhere if they don't have a starting point? They're expected to have a starting point, but he has to drop them off middle of the race. But everybody's like got a good head start.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pano is his own worst nightmare. Pano is more likely to resign or sign elsewhere than get fired, says Jiggly.
I agree. Yeah.
In the extra time tonight, they looked like they were content with a tie. I think that they got robbed, though. I mean, that penalty.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say they were content with the tie. I don't think they're really ever content with the tie unless it's like LEFC on the road, you know.
I mean, I love what I see from Dax McCarty. I love the fire, the passion of that guy. That guy cares. Yeah, and there's some people who aren't fighting for, they're not fighting for Pano. They're fighting for just to be a prideful soccer player, and I think that's a lot of them right now.
Absolutely.
They've kind of checked out on Pano. Slow Day saying the locker room has been lost. Arriva and El America del Cali. I don't know what that means.
Oh my God. You just mute that guy.
Okay.
So you guys know, like, that comment that America de Cali, that's like one of our biggest rivals in Colombia. Yeah. So yeah, shout out to my compatriot if you're a compatriot.
Usually okay.
Like, get out of here with that stuff.
That's funny. He's usually okay. But that's funny. So they're saying Mo gets off the plan and gets minutes with ATL. Pano is crap. So they say, no, Juan, come back. I think that's when we were having a little internet.
I'm back.
Yeah, you're back. Jiggly said he went there. Oh, yeah, he went there. I don't believe that Nelson's been that involved in the community stuff. Maybe more background people in fire.
Yeah, but again, he's the president. So he leads that effort. Yeah.
He leads that charge. The people who are involved are great. Jiggly says, but Nelson isn't.
Oh, man.
Okay. So they're saying they're now 6 points off and have played more games than anyone in front of them. True, we talked about that. 22 versus 18 games in hand, or 4 games in hand for the other team ahead of them. Failure is no longer all on Pano with this team. Nelson keeps him here. That means he keeps enabling him to fail. This is now all on Nelson since he won't send him packing. I think that's what I was kind of getting to.
It may be. It's what's the term? It's an echo chamber.
It's an echo chamber.
It might be a think tank at this point.
Bad thing.
Again, maybe through not because they're trying to sabotage each other, but it might just be a point where they're just in a spiral that they don't realize they are, and there's no really way forward with this.
It doesn't seem to be.
Mhm.
Red Stars with more on Sunday, says Jiggly. Usted supposedly
Shut
talked
up. By the way, I'll be there. So if any of
Red
you guys
Stars.
wanna hit me up, I'll be in the house Sunday, definitely.
Red Stars, Bridgeview.
Mhm.
Sunday. Usted supposedly talked back to Sarge, hence his benching, says Mikey C.
I don't know.
Don't know.
I don't know,
Surprised
bro.
to see Mo Adams on the bench. Oh, wow. Mo Adams made the bench already.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying.
You can buy his jersey too if you want. His Atlanta United jersey. It's on sale as we speak.
I got some Pokemon references. Fire Art Monk, their Garbodor, which is a garbage Pokemon. Look it
Oh
up.
wow.
and Elliot's saying they're Houndoom, which is like a fire ghost dog. But
okay, at least that's like related,
a
We'll
little
take that, yeah.
all right, I think that just about shuts down the comments.
Mhm.
The future of the Fire for this next 12 games. What do you think?
It's not again. It's really unclear. And yeah, because as we talked about before, to me the biggest issue number one is the morale and the potential disconnect in the locker room. And again, like I said, if that's the case, we might see flashes.
Like Atlanta?
Like Atlanta. We might see in Atlanta. We might see a New England performance or a Red Bulls performance at home. I think again, at this point, that's just the exception. But without confidence, without morale, without this team really pulling together and believing in what they're in their product and what they're trying to put forth, unfortunately, and I hate for everybody watching, I don't see where this team can turn it around. So to me, it's headed to another lost season, and we'll see what happens from there. And there's going to have to be major changes. All across. The roster is going to change. I'm certain of that come the offseason drastically.
And we're going to be, it seems to be mind blowing, but we might be rebuilding this roster going into Soldier Field year. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And why would you get rid of a player like Katai? If you could bring Katai to Soldier Field, you bring Katai.
Yeah. And again, are we going to see year 5 of this championship program? Or are we going to see at the end of it? I mean,
year 5 of this championship world-class program that they've been saying since year 1. I used to tweet that out. # world class. He used to say that, but he stopped saying that. He stopped saying that because he quickly realized, oh, wow.
But unfortunately,
seriously.
Definitely. I think for the moment, I think rock bottom was St. Louis. I know, I think Pano alluded that rock bottom might have been the weekend, Cincinnati. I think St. Louis was really the shot of grace, if you will, for this team, and there's no recovering from it. It looks like.
If that was rock bottom, they're in the Marianas Trench, Juan. They're in the deepest part. And I said this in a past podcast, and this is what I firmly believe. Barring a significant change of something on this team tomorrow, the next day, this team's going nowhere. And what I mean by significant change is maybe a new voice. I don't want to ever call for Pano's job. I like the dude. I mean, if he was coaching my kids or I don't have kids, but I mean, but you know what I mean? Like, he seems like a great dude, great coach. I just don't think he could put it together here.
Yeah, and I can attest to it. Again, to me, he was really nice. And a lot of the things that he does that people don't see.
He knows more about soccer than maybe you and me combined. He's got to. The dude is so soccer smart, but he just isn't putting it together. And there's people out there who can. And the Fire, if they're going to punch their ticket to the playoffs and have a chance to win that cup, they have a 0% chance with Paunovic, and they have a mystery percent chance with another coach.
Absolutely. Yeah. Unfortunately, I agree. And like you said, James, it might take something we don't know about. It might take something just spontaneous, something miraculous to happen. Maybe I don't know. Maybe that's in the form of a Wayne Rooney. Maybe the DP signing comes, maybe this summer. And we know, of course, that Nikolic, his future is uncertain at this point. And he looks like candidate one to leave
go.
a DP spot open. I have no information about it so far. It's just kind of based on what he said himself, that he wants to he's hoping to go back to Hungary with his family and play there. So I mean, maybe that's it. Maybe again, something unforeseen, something we don't know about. That's hence why I don't see it, you don't see it, James. Like from right here, um, that this can be turned around, at least to the point of at least making it to seventh place, which again, this is the bar that the team set themselves from day one. And if we're going by that bar, it's another lost season.
Juan, uh,
Yeah.
I agree with you on a lot of it, but I don't think a player could change this within 12 games. I don't think a player comes in, because I feel like a new player comes in from Europe. Maybe it's Lewandowski type or Chicharito type. Let's just put that out there. So this guy's coming in the middle of July. He's still on summer. He's still on break. He's still probably going to need 4 or 5 weeks to get together, to get going again. And then at that point, there's 8 games left, and the Fire are already too far behind the bucket. So they squeak into the playoffs. They don't get any rhythm going. I don't see a player as solving this problem. I see a coaching change as being the only way to spur this team onto a trophy potentially this year. A player, I don't think getting a left back extraordinaire and Antonio Valencia right back.
Oh man.
I don't think that puts you over the edge to make this team glue under Paunovic to get as far as it can. But you know what? That does fill a giant hole, Antonio Valencia at right back. Okay.
Yeah. Well, he's not coming. He's back home.
But he's not. Yeah, he's not coming. But just
honestly, like I don't think Valencia at this point, and I'm a United fan. I love the guy, but I don't think he would change much, quite frankly, if he were.
Oh, I think he would still make mincemeat of most MLS competition. Maybe not EPL competition, but
yeah. I mean, it is
MLS.
true.
I feel like at right back he could still put in a shift, but I don't think 12 games of Antonio Valencia and another left back changes the results of the Fire. I think a coach does. Bringing in a Bruce Arena type level of coach that every single player in that locker room all of a sudden is inspired again and is listening again, and they've all taken all the cotton and the wax and they all decided to clean their ears out again for the first time in a long time. That is what would change the Fire, because right now none of them are cleaning out their ears. They're just trying to let that wax grow up and build up as much as possible until they can put their heads down and get out of the city of Chicago and away from Paunovic as fast as possible. Yeah. I don't know. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, no, and I mean, you might be right. I'll
speculate.
It might be the case, definitely. And again, we'll see it. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But between here and August 7th, while the window's still open, and after that, then we'll know for sure. I think really what's going to be of this season.
Oh my god! In the next 2 games, we should really know, because it's in the next 2 or 3, 4. If Paunovic is not, if there's no change, it's just nothing's going to. If there's no change, nothing is going to change. And the guy in charge of the change, I saw an interesting comment just saying sometimes that guy seems to like change for just change's sake, but also in some areas doesn't.
So again, just
we've had Lavelle Palmer on the podcast, and he was talking about like year over year, ex-Fire player, Jamaican international. He was talking about just year over year how the Chicago Fire roster there's just so much turnover. Yeah, and that doesn't let these guys gel.
Yeah, it's true, especially young guys. And again, we go back to Mo Adams. We go back to a guy who I kind of hit on last year, Jan Vaquero.
Yeah.
What was the point of making that effort to bring him in and draft him to ship him away?
For nothing.
Nico Hasler, who's gone.
Who was punted for nothing, who was let go for nothing. But Nico Hasler was a great player, was at least a decent player for the Fire when he was here for a few moments.
Yeah, but again, like he's gone. It's just things.
Bad roster management, because that was the international spot snafu, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
said at the beginning of the season that he could manage in another round table. He said, "Oh, I could manage this. I could juggle."
Yeah, well,
Nelson can't juggle.
Just getting green cards go a long way in that regard, and Mo Adams got his, and
and then traded. Wow.
But
Wow, Juan, this has
Yeah.
been awesome. This has been great, man. Thanks for hopping on, dude. This is fantastic. Jiggly predicts no playoffs for this year.
Yeah,
Mo Adams
right
did
now I
get in the
agree.
game.
Hmm.
Mo Adams got in the game today.
No way. Are you serious? Wow.
Entered the game for ATL.
That is amazing.
Okay, Pano out. Get this.
That is amazing.
Oh, wow. So
Wow.
DeBoer sees the value. All right. Fiance's calling it. All right, boys and girls, we'll shut it down. Juan, thank you so much for coming on. Smash that like button. Check us out on Spitting Fire YT on iTunes and on Stitcher. We'll see you guys later. Subscribe for more. Hit the bell icon to get notified of our live stuff. Check Juan out on Twitter. I will have everything that Juan has here in our description of this video.
Definitely.
Anything else, Juan? Last thoughts?
No, again, thank you everybody for following along. At Pimiento Football is the handle, like you said, James. You'll have it on the description. SecondCitySoccer.com is the website, and at Second City Soc, SOC on Twitter for our Twitter account for all things Chicago soccer. And thank you, James, for having me, man. It was fun. Anytime.
Heck yes, man. Thanks for hopping on last second with us. We'll see you guys later. Thank you, everybody, for listening during the show. Everybody in their live chat, thank you for coming. We'll see you guys later. Everybody after the fact, we'll see you guys later. Woo. Much appreciated. Fire it up. Fire it down, footballers, Juan. Keep it up.
Yep.
Great work. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hopefully we'll have you on here again in the future. That was awesome, man.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, guys. We'll see you later. Have a good one.